Were you ever told you were such a good kid? You know, the easy one. Always quiet, always well-behaved, maybe a little too mature for your age. Well, today we're going to dig into the hidden costs of being that perfect child and why all that praise might have actually been a kind of a trap.
This right here, this comes from a Reddit user, but wow, doesn't it just hit home? That feeling of walking on eggshells, that constant fear of rocking the boat or taking up too much space. For so many of us, this wasn't just a phase. It was our entire childhood.
And that is the big question we're tackling. Because when you reframe it like that, everything changes. It suggests that being good wasn't really about who you are deep down. It was about what you had to do to feel safe, to feel secure in the world around you. Okay, so let's dive in. What does this perfect child trap actually look like? How does it feel? It usually starts with getting praise for things that are, really, about a kid just kind of disappearing. This line, it's just so incredibly powerful because it captures the whole thing perfectly. It's this feeling of slowly, quietly erasing your own personality, your wants, your messy feelings, just to become what everyone else needs you to be. You learn really fast that your value comes from being convenient.
So what does this actually look like day to day? Well, adults call these kids so easy or mature for their age. They almost never push back, not because they're naturally agreeable, but because they are absolutely terrified of the consequences. They get praised for being hands-off, which really just teaches them to be fiercely independent on the outside, because they've learned that being needy just doesn't work. See, this isn't a personality. It's a very clever, highly adapted response to their environment. So, the big question is, where does this all come from? To understand the why, we have to talk about something called parentification. It's a kind of invisible trauma that shapes everything. Okay, so what is parentification? It's basically when the roles get flipped. The child is forced to become the caretaker. They have to put their own needs for play, for comfort, for guidance on the back burner to manage the needs of an adult. And let's be clear, this is a serious boundary violation. It essentially robs a child of their childhood.
Now, this can show up in two main ways. First, you've got emotional parentification. This is where the child becomes the parent's little therapist, their confidant, burdened with all these adult emotions they have no idea how to handle. Then there's instrumental parentification. This is way beyond just doing chores. This is when a kid is taking on huge responsibilities, like cooking all the meals, raising younger siblings, or basically running the whole household. Both are incredibly damaging.
And what's really important to get here is that this doesn't always come from a bad parent. Imagine a family under immense stress, maybe caring for a sibling with high needs. In a situation like that, another child might just intuitively learn to make themselves smaller, to become almost obsessively good, simply to avoid adding one more ounce of weight to an already overloaded family.
And you know, often the deepest hurt isn't from something that happened, but from what didn't happen. This is what we call emotional neglect. It's the absence of praise for just being you, not for what you do. It's the lack of real connection, that feeling of a vague, constant loneliness that's so hard to explain, because on the surface, everything might have looked totally fine.
So, what happens when this perfect child finally grows up? Well, those survival strategies they mastered, they don't just vanish. Nope, they evolve, and they become the blueprint for the people-pleasing adult.
See, as kids, we write these internal rule books about how the world works. And for the good kid, those rules usually sound something like this. If I keep everyone happy, then I'll be safe. Or I can never say no or they'll abandon me. My feelings just aren't as important as theirs. And the biggest one of all, my worth is based on how useful I am to other people. And it's so easy to see how these old rules play out in our adult lives, right? It's the person at work who's always taking on extra projects and is completely burnt out. It's the friend who just agrees with everything, so the friendship never feels that deep. It's that knot in your stomach when you have to say no to something, and that crushing feeling that you're somehow responsible for everyone else's happiness, which of course means you totally lose track of your own.
So here is the most crucial thing to understand. People-pleasing is not a character flaw. It is not just some bad habit you can just decide to break. It's a survival response, wired deep into your nervous system. Your brain learned, a long time ago, that pleasing others was the fastest way to safety and connection. That's why these reactions feel so automatic, so urgent, so out of your control. If this is all starting to sound a little uncomfortably familiar, you're probably asking, okay, so how do I change? But I've got to tell you, healing from this stuff is almost never a straight line. In fact, it can get pretty strange.
You'd think that as you start setting boundaries, life would just get easier.
But a lot of the time, the exact opposite happens. The journey can feel really disorienting. You might even find yourself feeling more angry and confused than you did before. But listen, that's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign that things are actually changing.
So one therapist actually laid out 5 bizarre but super common phases of this recovery. First up is the pendulum swing. You go from zero boundaries to like a brick wall. Then comes the hermit phase, where you just need to pull back from everyone to figure out who you are. Then you hit the even more annoyed than before phase, where suddenly everything irritates you, which is actually a good sign your standards are rising. After that comes the pushback, the I'm the problem cascade, when people in your life don't like the new you. And finally, the big one, the I don't want the life I built phase, when you realize the life you built to please others just doesn't fit anymore.
And it is so important to remember that these phases, even the really extreme ones, are there for a reason. Take that pendulum swing. It might feel like an overcorrection, but for the first time, you are learning to trust yourself. After a whole lifetime of putting yourself last, you are finally learning, without a doubt, that you can and you will take care of yourself.
So, after all this messy, uncomfortable work, what's the goal? What's the point of it all? Well, it's about making that incredible shift from being a vessel for everyone else to finally becoming your own person.
At its heart, this is really what healing is. It's about grieving what you didn't get and then learning to give it to yourself now. It's about offering yourself the compassion, the permission to be messy, the validation, and the unconditional love that you always deserved. You, in essence, become your own loving parent.
And the results of this work? They're completely life-changing. I mean, imagine setting a boundary and not feeling sick with guilt for days after. Imagine rediscovering what actually makes you happy, feeling truly connected to who you are, and for maybe the first time ever, trusting that your feelings are right and your instincts are a guide you can count on.
And this really is the final takeaway. It's so tempting to think that we have to get around our childhood wounds to be happy, that they're just obstacles. But the truth is, turning towards them, understanding them, and healing them, that isn't a detour from the path. It is the path to real freedom.
So, we want to leave you with this question. After a lifetime of performing, of trying to earn your place, who are you when you finally stop pleasing everyone else and start pleasing yourself? The journey to find that out is maybe the most important one you'll ever take.